Even at 4 a.m, Brick Lane is never quiet. The night blends into a collage of sounds. I never remember waking up, just the feeling of not being asleep. Months ago when this started, I tried different things, writhing around in my bed until the sun rose. Now I just sit waiting for the boredom to pass. Abandoning all hope of sleep, I look out at the restless city. Letting the night slip by. I once read that before the Industrial Revolution, sleep was practiced in biphasic cycles. People used to wake up in the middle of the night to pray and do chores. I like that idea. At my window, across the street from the Brick Lane Bakery, I observe the rhythms of the street, the patterns of the night. I began understanding the early hours of the morning. At 4:45, a man on a skateboard rides by. I notice when the structure is broken, irregularities like an Uber dropping off a party of drunk tourists getting a late night bagel. Few see these types. Me and the thousands of CCTV cameras spun like a web around the city. These days, my eyes feel heavy. Something has softened, and I'm almost sure I could sleep through the night if I tried. But if I don't, if I stop observing, those roaming the city at these hours exist a little less. It feels like a duty, like giving them a home.
The problem with living in an ever-evolving city is you get lost, detached from the metropolis. I would walk around East London aimlessly, hoping the city would whisper me something in my ear. I began noticing self-expression plastered against the city's many surfaces. London's graffiti stood out to me. It sparked metropolitan imagination. A permanent etching in London's history. No matter what happens to their authors, their works were here. Mine started with a face. Something simple. I don't know if it's supposed to be me or someone I've forgotten. A trace of myself amongst London's urban decay. To most pedestrians, these faces may be invisible. Like the small popular boundary marker, it's been there for over 100 years. A remnant from before Poplar merged with Tower Hamlets and Stepney. It's a trace of what came before, like the graffiti will be. I've had a couple of close calls. I was right off Mile End the first time. I hid where no lights or CCTV could find me. I would never spray paint in a place like this. Not because I'm sentimental or because the gravestones stay in loving memory. It's just untouched. Left alone to be ravaged by time and nature, while the surrounding area has been demolished and rebuilt 1,000 times. I've lost count of how many times I've marked the city. I'm often surprised to find my face is staring back at me. People walk past my work, A few stare and point. I saw one girl take a picture. They don't know who I am, but their remnants know their author. Maybe next time they'll catch me. But my face remains.
The lecture is fresh in my mind. The minute differences between Victorian and Edwardian architecture buzzing in my ears. I never draw buildings, rarely draw anything without DNA. But there had to be something for an architectural drawing class. I was in Spitalfields when I first saw it. Christchurch. The Gothic steeple couldn't help but stick out. Buildings need to be important to remain. One thing about a country this old, wherever you go, you're sure to find a church. The drawings lack history, is what my professors told me. I don't care for a history built by men. Help but get distracted by the overgrown flowers, the bodies buried at every chapel, the trees hiding the bell tower from view. London's architects had grandiose plans to rebuild London in the image of New Jerusalem, using the principles from the Old Testament Book of Numbers. I was traveling up and down a geometric grid designed centuries ago, visiting testaments to religions I knew little about. These aspirations toward permanence aggravated me. Things aren't supposed to last this long. In one of London's pockets, I found St. Dunstan in the East. Burned, rebuilt, and bombed before they left her alone, allowed her to flourish. The Shard, beautiful to me for the first time through the leaves. The trees seemed to grasp at the eaves, pulling the building down. I remembered the view of St. Anne's I had when leaving the site, staring up at the roof, like bismuth, crystallizing. The giant dome of St. Paul's ballooned forth against the skyscrapers, or London's excuse for them. Nothing, for a moment in the quiet, seemed as striking as a steeple.
Everyone in the building got the flyer slipped under their door. One of our neighbours passed away. No next of kin. There'll be a free collection in the refuse area come Monday. No one wanted her belongings thrown out, so we all took what we could. Probably just some worthless scraps. Old books on the verge of turning into sand, filled with scribbles. Handwritten notes. Her 8mm camera and reels were intact. I began finding patterns. The books told me where she'd grown up. The scribbles revealed the names of her ancestors. Her family tree slowly unfurled out in front of me. Stepping into her shoes, I looked through her lens. I became her eyes. I think her grandmother worked here, the Brian and May match factory. It was the site of the match girl strike of 1888 which ended with the successful formation of the Matchmakers' Union. All women, the largest of its kind in England. I later read the factories redeveloped in an 80s London urban renewal project. The Brian and May match factory is now a gated community. Her notes told me about Victoria Park Cemetery, the location of her family plot, though she wouldn't have been able to join them. Only the original cemetery gate remains intact. I found Victoria Park Cemetery demolished, with its tombstones ripped from the earth. Turned into Meath Gardens, a park for parents and their prams. There's one grave with its name almost completely washed away. I could just make out the name Constance. Beloved by all who knew her, her suffering was long and intense, but borne with the greatest patience.